Hey everybody, we're back today with our favorite Montenegrin attorney, Nino, to talk about Montenegro residency. We've done, I think, at least 4 videos with Nino so far, talking about everything from how to live in Montenegro as a homeowner, opening a corporation, digital nomad, and there's so many things going on with Montenegro. We need to do a video to kind of update because we're also going to talk a little bit about potential EU accession that will be coming up in 2028 and some potential impacts. But right now, Nino, what's going on with the world of residency here? And wait, you know what? We need to tell the audience. Julie and I, in this last year, we actually have our residency in Montenegro. And we did this through the home ownership program. So if you want to buy a home here, make sure you let us know. Or julietravel@gmail.com. But we've gone 4+ years just in 90 days, out 90 days. And with Nino's help, we actually did our residency in Montenegro for the first time this year. And so we don't know if we'll actually renew because we're going to head off to South America soon. But we went through the process, and it wasn't that hard.
It wasn't. And we actually did our FBI background checks from Montenegro.
Okay, so Nino, what's going on here with residency? Explain everything. At least the short version.
Yeah. So right now we still have everything that's pretty much the same from our last video in terms of obtaining a residency through property, obtaining a residency through corporation, establishment of corporation, employment, family, residences, visas. We also have some new regulations regarding digital nomad visa. This is something that has been in effect and enshrined as a law. So this is definitely not some test phase or something that is a little bit unclear. I see that somewhere on internet people are not really sure how all of that works out, and is Montenegro allowing digital nomad visas. So there's definitely a yes, anyone can apply. There is no really restrictions who can apply in terms of nationalities. And if you're in Montenegro as a tourist, you can definitely simply go to your nearest immigration center, and if you have all the valid documentation, you can apply for a digital nomad visa. The digital nomad visa in Montenegro is a little bit specific in terms of compared to other countries, that it doesn't allow people who are simply doing a freelance work to obtain it. It's more tailored toward the people who are employed, but their employee allows them to work from abroad or from home, as we can say. It's valid for 3 years. People can get up to 3 years residencies here based on digital nomad visas, and with this they can they just have to demonstrate that they're actually employed in the company of their from the country where they're coming from, or somewhere else which is not Montenegro. They have to show that they have been receiving salary higher than 1,800 euros, which is 3 minimum wage salaries currently in Montenegro. And as proof of that they're employed, usually immigration center would ask for an employment agreement, which states that the person can work abroad, that they're not obliged to come to the office, and if it says that they can work from Montenegro, even better. They also ask that you show your history of actually being employed on civil works or somewhere in the past of 1 year. So when it comes to these digital nomad visa, they're a little bit specified in tailors to effectively shows that it's somewhat like what Montenegrin employer would have to show. But outside of that, people have been getting these and staying here. And important matter just to state is that whoever applies for digital nomad visa also does not have really tax residency status, so they can't be treated as tax resident in Montenegro despite staying here for years and years on this.
Yeah. That's very good.
Although let's be honest, the tax here in Montenegro is about some of the lowest in Europe.
Yes.
So if you're going to change your tax residency somewhere, especially if you're in the EU, this is probably not a bad place to be, because taxes are much lower here than the rest of the EU. And I say the rest of the EU because Montenegro will probably be EU in 2028. So
Correct.
Never too late to get in front of that. Now, as a digital nomad, so Julie and I guess we can qualify for some countries because we're freelancers, we do our YouTube stuff, but we consider ourselves early retired. But us being freelancers and not having a job with an employer, would we still be able to do the digital visa?
Well, but this is the thing, unfortunately, you would have to find another route. Most common route is setting up a company and then providing services with this company. But the positive thing is that with the setup of the company, you do get a tax residency here, valid as long as you're employed in a company, and also it grants you the right to stay here in Montenegro. Extendable or effectively indefinitely by virtue of extending temporary residence permit as long as you have this employment in your company. Another good thing is that the only route to permanent residency is through company setup. It can't be obtained through digital nomad visa or by simply purchasing a property. The person would have to set up a company and have a residency permit valid for 5 years. So they would have to be here in the country for 5 years.
And they get health insurance, correct?
Yes, they get a free healthcare insurance by state hospitals as long as they can demonstrate that they are employed.
So let me explain something. Julie and I, we did our residency through home ownership. So by owning a habitable home in Montenegro, you can have residency. And we hadn't done this in the past, and there's a reason for this, that we like to travel, and so as homeowners, we'd have to stay in Montenegro basically 10 months out of the year. It's actually 11, but you can leave another month if you had a reason to do so. As Americans, we could come in for 90 days, leave for 90 days, come back for 90 days, but with the homeowner residency, you basically can qualify very easily just because you own a home and if you're okay with not doing that type of traveling. Otherwise, if you're traveling a lot, you'd have to go and reapply for your residency again the following year as a homeowner, whereas when you have a corporation, you're paying your minimum tax and you're part of the health system, which you won't have that as a homeowner, but you'll be able to travel in and out with your corporation residency more or less at will. So if you want to leave for 6 months and you can do so. However, I think if you're doing that type of traveling, the permanent residency part would still require you to have 10 months a year on average, correct?
Yes. So they check it that in the last 5 years of you being eligible for the permanent residency, they want to see that a person stayed at least 10 months of every year there. Unless they had medical emergency, family matter, which is usually done by asking approval from the immigration officers to leave the country for a prolonged period of time. If granted, then this can be calculated, but otherwise, yeah, the person needs to be here. A 5 years rule obtains permanent residency. After additional 5 years, the person can then obtain a passport of Montenegro.
That's excellent. I didn't really realize there was a path to citizenship. So that's what you're saying is, so that would be EU citizenship potentially.
In a few years down the line,
Yeah. So let's talk Schengen. If they go EU in 2028 here in Montenegro, that does not necessarily mean they're Schengen right away, because a lot of people come to Montenegro for the Schengen shuffle. They'll come here, do 90 days or whatever, then go back to the Schengen, which is a group of 29 countries, most of which are part of the EU, and that gives freedom of movement between all of these countries. Kind of like if you're in the United States, you can travel from Florida and go all the way to the state of Washington. If you're part of the Schengen, you can literally drive currently from Greece and go to Poland and drive to Portugal and never leave the Schengen and never have to go through a border checkpoint. And that's where Montenegro would be coming to at some point, but not in 2028. They'll join the EU, but you won't be part of Schengen here, and that will be good for a lot of people. For some people, maybe not, but for us and a lot of the viewers here, we like them not being part of Schengen because you can split your time if you wanted to live in Italy and come to Montenegro for 90 days, recharge your clock, go back to Italy or anywhere else in part of the Schengen. But when we look at history, it took Croatia 10 years to from joining the EU to becoming part of Schengen. When we look at Bulgaria and Romania, it was, I'll correct it here, but I think it's 17 or 18 years for Romania and Bulgaria to become Schengen. And currently Cyprus is over 20 years waiting to join Schengen. So we need to differentiate from EU and Schengen because there's some people that might be disappointed if it becomes Schengen, whereas the EU has some favorability areas. Now, when Montenegro becomes EU, Will any of the situations potentially change with like Americans or other people being able to come here visa free or being able to apply for residency?
Yeah, so one of the requirements for joining the EU is that Montenegro needs to align its immigration policy with EU. That means that, for example, the EU nationals will be able to come and live here freely like anywhere else in the EU. So it's very beneficial for EU nationals. Also, if EU has a preferential immigration treatment to certain third world countries or simply any country outside of EU, Montenegro will incorporate the same rules. So it might affect English nationals or USA nationals, New Zealand, Australia. It all depends how EU policy is at the moment. But what it also means is that for some people it can be tricky, because if EU has a very strict policies, for example, towards Turkey or Russia or China or any of these countries that maybe EU has a harsher, stricter rules, Montenegro will have to align to have exactly the same rules, which means that potentially in the future for certain nationals there might be no more visa-free travel as a tourist to come here for 90 days or 30 days.
Wow, that's a change.
Yeah.
So Montenegro, if you're not familiar, has a population of probably about 630,000 people. And out of that population, which is in an area the size of the U.S. state of Connecticut, it's not a large country as far as land, but a lot of things going on here, a lot of opportunity here. But you have 630,000 citizens, and you have somewhere between 40 and 60,000 foreigners in Montenegro at any given time. It's a very multinational expat group here. There's as we go around the Kotor Bay region, we have people from all over Europe, Asia, and they typically will use English as the bridge language. However, the largest expat community probably in Montenegro is Russian, and most of them are in the Budva-Basici area. I think they're probably more dominant there than they are in the Kotor Bay area. And so there's probably going to be a big impact on that community when EU accession comes along. And so, while you do already have a growing, say, American, Western Europe, Australian, Canadian, Great Britain presence growing every year here, it will probably become tougher on Russians that are newly trying to apply here. I'm assuming that maybe the Russians that may already have residency, that maybe they'll probably be grandfathered, but newer applications might become a little bit tougher for that group, and maybe the other group maybe a little bit more preferential.
There are. I mean, what we have understand now is just that there is discussion among the government to pick a certain countries. I mean, it certainly would create an economic impact on Montenegro if these rules were hastily approved and limiting people. So we don't know yet, but this is what EU wants for Montenegro on its path to accession. So we hope that it won't be too hard or anything like that. But of course, when it comes to these rules to obtain a residency permit, they won't pretty much change. What might change potentially is just that some of these nations might not come here visa-free. They will have to first seek visa at the embassy.
So we've talked about the digital nomad residency options here in Montenegro. We've talked about the corporation. Now let's talk home ownership, because Warren and I went through the home ownership option through residency. So as I understand it, there's no minimum value that you have to pay for a house in order to get the residency, but it has to be habitable and it can't be a plot of land or agricultural land. Is that correct?
Correct. So there are a few rules around that. First of all, foreigners, who are not Montenegrin nationals or EU nationals, cannot buy the land which is agricultural land or forest. They would have to do it through corporation. So that's one thing. If someone wants to really buy a property, they just have to pay attention to that. But second of all, if they are seeking the residency permit through property purchase, even if it's a house that might look the nicest, or it's very cheap or small in some shape or form, the immigration officers are actually not interested in that. They want to see the title deed that shows that it's not a ruin, it's a normal property, that it's registered, and then the person can obtain their residency permit based on that.
Okay.
So if you're looking at residency in Montenegro, we've been working with Nino now for years, and send us an email at warrangeleytravel@gmail.com. We're going to put you in contact with Nino, but he'll be able to assist you with your digital nomad visa, home residency, you're setting up a corporation, and if you're doing legitimate corporation where you're going to try to make money on it, of course that's something he can help you with, as well as real estate. There's, Nino's a wealth of information, and he's taken good care of us. And matter of fact, for those of you that don't know, so Julie and I will be leaving Montenegro, even though it's like, I think some of you think of us as Mr. and Mrs. Montenegro because we've been coming and going since 2016, and we've done so many videos on Montenegro. We will be leaving for a period of time if you haven't seen that video, and we're leaving Nino with our power of attorney because we will be coming back to Montenegro, because we look at Montenegro as kind of the next Monaco, the next great opportunity here in Europe for growth. And so we are not going to take away what we have going on here. But for those of you not in the know, we will be going to finish up some time here in Europe, going to Germany, then France, and then heading over to Ecuador for potentially 1.5 to 2 years, because we're going to go explore South America from there, and that will be our home base. So where we have Montenegro as our home base here, we're looking at going back to Cuenca, Ecuador, where we were in 2020 during lockdown and COVID, and we're going to do trips to Argentina, Panama, and different places, and check out things over there. Then we'll be coming back to Monty at some point, and we'll be in constant contact here with Nino throughout our entire time away, and we'll still get the updates from him and probably do another video even when we're not here via Zoom, so that we can keep you guys in the know here in Montenegro. We've also got a real estate video coming out soon.
Yes.
We've done many real estate videos on real estate here in Montenegro. We've got one in the hopper that will be getting released after this video.
And it's covering quite a few places.
So I encourage you to check that out. And if you want to buy a home, email us at warrangeleytravel@gmail.com. We'll put you in touch with our realtors. And then, of course, importantly, we've got our guy here, Nino, as our legal representation here in the wonderful country of Montenegro. And before I exit, current taxes on individuals and corporations here in Montenegro?
Yeah, so they have between 9% up to 100,000, up from 100,000 to 1 million, 12.5, above 1 million, 15%. So 9% rate is the lowest officially in Europe.
Okay, and sales tax on real estate?
3%.
3%.
If it's second-hand purchase. If it comes from the developer, there is no tax on transfer.
Okay.
So brand new properties don't incur property transfer tax.
Okay, so that's good news, and I'm sure a lot of people in the EU are probably in awe that that this is an opportunity, EU people, if you want to get in front. So we hope you're going to subscribe, give this video a like, join our Facebook group, Expat Slow Travel Nomad Network by Warren and Julie. We've got about 17,000 expats, slow travelers, and nomads there right now, sharing their information, stories, and giving advice as well. So you can network over at our Facebook group. And of course, subscribe, give the video a like, and until next time, have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.
Ciao.
Bye, everybody.